Welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Melody, and here are today's reports. Public requested to cooperate in contact tracing of COVID-19 confirmed cases. Over 90% rice export target completed in 2019 to 2020 financial year. Muse border trade volume declines by more than half. Continuous flow of commodities to be implemented in Rakhine State. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the featured local news for today. Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, received a call from Mr. Yang Jiechi, the member of Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, at the Zayati rebatement in Naypyidaw on Wednesday morning. At the meeting, they discussed increasing promotion of fraternal and bilateral relations, which have entered the 70th anniversary, the consistent implementation of mutual agreements made during the official visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping in January of this year. Medicines and medical supplies of Myanmar to China during the initial period of COVID-19. And sending medical experts of the People's Liberation Army to Myanmar to exchange knowledge of COVID-19 control while providing medical assistance. The report from the Office of Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services also stated that the meeting also focused on exchange of information between the two militaries on border security. Myanmar and Japan signed exchange of notes on Tuesday for a Japanese yen 30 billion loan from the Japan International Cooperation Agency and the loan agreement. The loan is intended to remedy social and economic impacts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The exchange of notes was signed by Myanmar's Deputy Minister for Planning, Finance and Industry, Win, and Japanese Ambassador to Myanmar, Ichiro Maruyama. The loan agreement was signed by Myanmar's Treasury Department Director General Do C.C. Pyon and JICA Myanmar Office Chief Representative Sakakura Norichi. To assist pregnant mothers and patients with cancer or awaiting emergency operations during COVID-19, 100 people from Supreme Group of Companies donated their blood to the Defense Services Hospital No. 2 and the National Blood Bank in Yangon on Wednesday. Supreme also donated PPE outfits and surgical masks worth 1 million jets to the 500-bedded Defense Services Hospital No. 2 and 300,000 jets to the National Blood Bank. And I believe it's time now for our first report. State Councilor hosted a video conferencing on Wednesday, at which the current situation of contact tracing of COVID-19 confirmed cases was discussed. Representatives from the Ministry of Home Affairs, General Administration Office, and Public Health Department talked about how they're dealing with the contact tracing and what the challenges are. The public is requested to fully participate for contact tracing as the increasing rate is getting higher.
State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi, in her capacity as the chairperson of the National Level Central Committee on Prevention, Control and Treatment of COVID-19, hosted the video conferencing focusing on the contact tracing of the COVID-19 confirmed cases with the participants Deputy Minister for Home Affairs Major General So Tenai, District Administrator of General Administration Office Yangon South District Win Ao, and Deputy Director of Department of Public Health Yangon Region Dr. Sumo. It was announced that if someone fails to follow the regulations against the COVID-19 spread, they can be charged in accordance with the Natural Disaster Management Law. At the time being, the infection rate is so fast, reaching more than 900, so that the contact tracing is also being accelerated.
In order to contain the spread of COVID-19, the public have to collaborate with us. This is difficult to trace the contact person with the positive patients. It consumes manpower, finance, and time. The resurgence of COVID-19 outbreak started in Rakhine State, But according to the latest data, the infection is also getting high in Yangon. The regulations are still in effect, and we will take action against the violence. If the infection spreads the whole country, it will be difficult to give proper treatment.
At first, when the local transmission was stable, it had to deal with the returnees. The problem is that there are also illegal returnees entering through the border gates. This is challenging to combat the spread of infection.
For the returnees entering through border gates, the police force has already collected the profile of them once they enter through the official entrance gates and systematically send them to quarantine centers. So, it is easy to do contact tracing if the returnees turn out to be tested positive. But for the illegal entrants, sometimes we know their entrance when they are tested positive. Then, the contact tracing becomes difficult and challenging.
According to Dr. Tasumo, Department of Public Health contacts the positive patients and their families. Then they are taken to the medical centers or quarantine centers. People who are the most close to the confirmed patients are defined as the primary contacts. Because of the fear of the people, it is difficult to collect the full information of the contact persons.
The Department of Public Health contacts the positive patients, and our responsibility is to cooperate with the team taking the positive patients to the medical centers for management and safety. Then we have to work for the contact tracing. Sometimes the contact persons are frightened and they do not give full information, so that we are difficult to trace them. We have to educate the public. At present, the contact tracing plays a crucial role as the people are going outside. If we are late to perform contact tracing, the infection will get faster. The awareness programs are continually carried out to be reminded of the current condition and to follow the health guidelines.
The Ministry of Health and Sports announced to inform them about the travel history to and from Rakhine State, where the resurgence of local transmission occurs. From 10th of August, there are over 7,000 people coming back to Yangon from Rakhine State.
In the earlier period, the infection rate was slow and the death rate remains at 6. This is because we can only detect the contact persons, put them into quarantine, and give treatment if tested positive. To keep doing this, at the current time, we need the cooperation. Now, the positive patients from Yangon reach over 400. We are imposing stay-at-home orders in specific townships of Yangon. The individual has to take care of themselves and their surroundings. The government will support as much as we can, and this is the duty of the citizens to make the government's support effective.
According to the situation report by the Ministry of Health and Sports, until 31st August, there are 290 suspected persons under investigation, 82 people under hotel quarantine, and over 20,000 people under facility quarantine in the whole country.
That's the report on public requested to cooperate in contact tracing of COVID-19 confirmed cases. Myanmar has set the target of 2.5 million tons of rice for export to countries around the world in the current financial year. According to the figures from the Myanmar Rice Federation, the volume of rice and broken rice exported between October to August in the financial year of 2019 to 2020 has been estimated at over 2.2 million metric tons, worth over $800 million.
Myanmar was the world's largest exporter of rice in the mid-20th century. More than 75% of total rice production is consumed in the country, while over 75% of total populations reside in rural areas, and surplus rice volume is being exported to foreign countries. Myanmar has set the target of 2.5 million tons of rice for export to countries around the world in the current financial year. According to the figures from Myanmar Rice Federation (MRF), the volume of rice and broken rice exported between October to August in the financial year 2019-2020 has been estimated at over 2.2 million metric tons, worth over $800 million. AUNG, chairman of Myanmar Rice Federation, told MR Radio about the rice export for 2019-2020 fiscal year.
The volume of rice exported for 2018-2019 fiscal year was about 2.2 million metric tons and about 2.4 million metric tons for this current fiscal year. So, more than 0.2 million tons of rice would be exported in comparing with the last year. Myanmar exported 3.58 million metric tons of rice, which is the all-time highest record of rice in the fiscal year 2017-2018. But the export amount of rice to foreign countries declined after China suspended the import of rice from Myanmar. Over 1.4 million tons of rice, or 85.8% of the total rice export, was shipped abroad by sea.
AUNG also mentioned that the domestic rice markets are still actively purchasing, especially the bosom rice is highly demanded in the market, but the others are normal. In-depth condition of domestic rice market, Muse, owner of Tribiden Rice Shop from Nyangpille Market, said.
It is getting near to camp the new crop rice in the market. So, the sales are a bit active and the prices are also a bit higher. But the situation will only last some time, as there is no the demand from hotels and restaurants. The sales will be cooled again soon. I have stored over 500 bags of rice per month, and I have sold them with a reasonable market price. People don't make panic buying for rice as they understand that they should buy only necessary amount. Many rice shops, including like us, also have served the rice with door-to-door system. They can buy the rice starting from 12 pieces for this system in my shop.
Currently, the government is selling and distributing the reserve rice to the rice shop to make the domestic rice market stable. There are 200 rice shops in Yangon distributed with reserve rice, about 200 rice bags per month. Moreover, Myanmar has exported rice and broken rice to 59 foreign markets in the current financial year. China is the main buyer of Myanmar rice, followed by Madagascar and the Philippines. The European Union countries account for over 14.84% of rice exports, while 37.55% of rice grown in Myanmar goes to African countries. Myanmar exported over 2.35 million tons of rice and broken rice, worth over $709.6 million in the financial year of 2018-2019. Myanmar is looking to become one of the world's top 3 rice exporters in the next few years.
That's the report on over 90% rice export target completed in 2019 to 2020 financial year. Myanmar's border with China stretches 1,348 miles with border trade activities carried out by 4 border trade camps. Since the start of the coronavirus in Wuhan, China, the border trade of Myanmar and China has been on the decrease. Also now, border trade volume to China has dropped by more than half. This was said by AUNG, chairman of Muse Highway Freight Transport Entrepreneurs Association. Min Tun, So MAUNG, and Yan reports.
Myanmar's border with China stretches 1,348 miles with border trade activities carried out by 4 border trade camps. Since the start of the coronavirus in Wuhan, China, the border trade of Myanmar and China has been on the decrease. Also now, border trade volume to China has dropped by more than half, said AUNG, chairman of Muse Highway Freight Transport Entrepreneurs Association.
မိုးအကြီးဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်ဝါတွင်းပေါ့နော်ဝါတွင်းလည်းဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရောင်းဝယ်ရတော့နှစ်တိုင်းလိုဒီလို
The business is running slow annually as this is the raining season, also during Wazo period for 3 months like July, August and September. In October, the sales rise as it is the dry season and the business starts to go well. But for this year, China restricts the border gates during the COVID-19 period. So the business is affected and the sales drop by half.
It was learned that rice, broken rice, mung beans, chili, onion, and others are being exported to China. In return, China is exporting construction materials, heavy machinery, spare parts, clothes, stationery, furniture, and electrical, including personal goods, to Myanmar. U Jin-teng, chairman of Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association, said.
In Musel, the sales are low as usual. Rice hacks, and livestock feed are only exports in these days. Normally, the exports to Musel are relatively stable. There are always fewer activities in the transport sector in rainy seasons. But the sales rates are lower than normal because of the virus traces in Rakhine State. Before the pandemic, the export transportation in border of Musel was higher. There were buyers of corns, fish paste, dry fish, fishery products, watermelons, and cucumbers. But now the sales rates are dropping down to half of normal rates.
Previously, more than 400 cargo trucks entered Zhegang Trade Camp from China via Musel border trade camp every day. But now there are only more than 150 trucks. Generally, the export volume to China has dropped by more than half. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, tight restrictions were imposed at the 4 border trade camps, including Muse. Early April and later the border trade between Myanmar and China declined. At Zhegang Trade Camp in China, there are more than 100 goods gates from Myanmar side, and only Chinese citizens are issued out license, and Myanmar demanded negotiation between Myanmar and China. AUNG, chairman of Musel Highway Freight Transport Entrepreneurs Association, said.
တရုတ်နိုင်ငံသားနာမည်ခံပြီးတော့ license လုပ်လို့မလုပ်ရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ထွက်ပါ
They said we can get licenses if we are named as Chinese citizens, or we have to return to Myanmar border from Zhegang. We had asked for help from President of Zhegang to have some discussions between two countries, and then we also asked for help from the Ministry of Commerce. Our citizens work in Zhegang, border of two countries. Currently, we Myanmar business persons are facing some issues. All of the businesses will be in a tight corner. The situation will get worse if the conditions are stricter than required. If we are not working in Zhegang, we will have to go back to Muse. We have no choice except return to work in Muse. We still don't know how to handle this. Some are trying to get licenses, but most people may return to Muse.
There was trade volume of $7,448.530 million by water and $5,680.430 million by border trade route until June in 2019-2020 fiscal year.
That's the report on Muse border trade volume declines by more than half. Let's move on to the last report for today. The government is handling to fight the coronavirus outbreak in Rakhine State, while the resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic is occurring within Rakhine State. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19 in this state, some changes occurred in transportations and flows of commodity, such as changing drivers at the designated places, shifting goods according to the directives of government, quoted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association. Chairman U Jin-teng of MHFTSA said, Quote, according to the directives and restrictions imposed for health reasons in the trade sector of Rakhine State, we are trying to encourage smooth and secure flow of commodities, although a decrease has been seen in the number of cargo trucks in the transportation, end quote. Yan 9 Minton and MAUNG reports.
The government is handling to fight the coronavirus outbreak in Rakhine State, while the resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic is occurring within Rakhine State. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19 in this state, some changes occurred in transportations and flows of commodities, such as changing drivers at the designated places, shifting goods according to the directives of government, quoted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association. According to the directives and restrictions imposed for health reasons in the trade sector of Rakhine State, we are trying to encourage smooth and secure flow of commodities, although a decrease has been seen in the number of cargo trucks in the transportation, said by Chairman U Jin Thain, Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association.
The government noticed that there was a need to change drivers in Auri region, Bago region, and Magwe region, which are the adjacent areas of Rakhine State. These designated areas are a little bit far away for us, therefore we faced difficulties for changing drivers. Actually, these difficulties are not impractical and these are not convenient for all drivers and owners. So the government needs to consider about this case because of the too long distance. Anyhow, we are trying to implement smooth flow of commodities in Rakhine State. During the rainy season, the government does not allow entering 12-wheeled trucks, but only 6-wheeled trucks for transportation due to the conditions of road and bridges. Right now, we use 6-wheeled trucks for food transportation. We also transported relief supplies to Rakhine State 2 days ago.
As local trading process, goods from 14 regions and states are being transported from one place to another throughout the country. Marine products produced from Rakhine State were sent to the central regions and culinary crops, rice, oil and salt produced from the central region to Rakhine State. Now we are facing a shortage of drivers, said by CHAY, in charge of our Rakhine State Freight Transport Service.
The government announced the notification that can allow changing the goods and also drivers at Tendue and Chaopyu townships. According to this way, owners need to hire 2 drivers for 1 car. That is the main problem for us. At present time, we are facing drivers shortage because of the COVID-19 outbreak. But we are trying to ensure that the flow of commodities will continuously run in the state.
Started from 16 August, we have difficulties in trading to Rakhine State, and after 28 August, the problems became more complicated. Go Nai Linton, Yangon Chaopyu truck driver said.
Some difficulties are facing in this situation, but we can still walk. On the way, there are some health-related tests, so it made me some inconveniences, but I had to adapt the situation to meet conveniences.
In Rakhine State, there were 30 highway terminals and over 100 trucks ran per day before COVID-19 pandemic. At present, nearly 60 trucks are running a day due to the health restrictions, noted by Myanmar Highway Freight Transportation Service Association.
That's the report on continuous flow of commodities to be implemented in Rakhine State. Now to international news. India, on Wednesday, banned over 100 Chinese mobile apps, including wildly popular mobile game PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, amid fresh border tension between the two countries. The country's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology alleged that the 118 banned mobile applications are, quote, prejudicial to the sovereignty, integrity, defense of India, and public order, end quote. China's largest search engine, Baidu, the world's leading payment platform, Alipay, and news outlets Sina and NetEase are also among the list. Baidu declined to comment when asked about its inclusion on India's latest blacklist. A source close to one of the well-known companies on the list stated that the company has been focusing on the Chinese market, and the Indian ban has little impact on its business. But for some companies like Tencent Holdings, which owns wildly popular and profitable games PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds Mobile Lite, the ban could deal a blow to its overseas business. 13 men and 1 woman went on trial in Paris on Wednesday accused of helping jihadist gunmen in 3 days of attacks in 2015 that began at the offices of the French magazine Charlie Hebdo and ended at a Jewish supermarket. 17 people in all were killed. The 3 primary gunmen were killed in police raids shortly after the crimes. Meanwhile, Charlie Hebdo, in a defiant move, republished controversial cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, considered blasphemous to Muslims and thought to have precipitated the original attack on the newspaper. The trial is expected to last over 2.5 months, with plans to hear testimony from some 150 experts and witnesses to one of France's most difficult chapters in recent years.
Sincèrement, je trouve que c'est une atteinte à la dignité des musulmans. Ça a touché vraiment, ça a créé beaucoup de tensions entre les musulmans et les autres nations.
Donc aujourd'hui, cette liberté a été perdue en France. Elle existe encore sur papier, mais faites-le à vos risques et périls, quoi, de dessiner le prophète.
Parce qu'il y a en France toutes ces libertés. La liberté de conscience, la liberté d'expression, une liberté des journalistes de faire ses choix, une liberté de blasphème. Il y a le devoir de ne pas avoir de discours de haine et de respecter.
American R&B singer Akon says construction will begin next year on a $6 billion plan to build a futuristic Pan-African city in Senegal. Akon first announced his idea for the utopian city dubbed Akon City back in 2018. The project has been described as a real-life Wakanda, comparing it to the technologically advanced fictional African place portrayed in the blockbuster film Black Panther. He said he hoped his project would provide much-needed jobs for Senegalese and also serve as a home back home for Black Americans and others facing racial injustices. Akon, who was born in the United States to Senegalese parents, spent much of his childhood in the West African country. Tourism Minister Alouane Sarr said Akon's launch comes at a time when private investment is sacred and badly needed. International flights have resumed in Senegal, but at the moment are only for citizens and residents, with a few exceptions. AUNG said the project already has secured about 1/3 of the $6 billion needed, but declined to publicly identify his investors, citing non-disclosure agreements. He said after construction begins in early 2021, the first phase of the project alone could take more than 3 years. That's always the news and report on Myanmar Today. Hope everyone is staying safe.